Now, there's been a lot of talk of how can you go back to other Zelda games? What did they do to surpass this Zelda game? And I think I've outlined kind of my top 5 ideas or ways to improve this, make this different, expand upon it, make it more like other Zelda games, make it less like other Zelda games, make it less like Breath of the Wild or more, into its little niche. So let's start off just right off the bat. Number 1, new abilities is what I think the game needs. And I don't even mean new abilities necessarily that were in the other games. I also mean that. Stuff like the iron boots would be an incredible thing. Being able to walk underwater with them and see an underwater world with the Zoras maybe would be really cool. And that is one area that's very lacking underwater. Probably because it caused problems. This footage is also from my very end of the game when I did everything, and this is after beating the game. Stuff like the hammer that maybe could be used for something. Having a dedicated hammer. These dedicated items I think are missing. There's also something completely new we could see. Being able to walk on lava with certain boots or with a certain item ability could open up the world. I think a smaller, more Metroidvania-y style world where there are things you can't get past necessarily maybe works for me, and that's definitely my playstyle. I am wearing a Metroid shirt. So maybe that's me. I almost hit my face on the mic. Also, I think these items, like if there were iron boots or a hammer or a super boomerang, they'd have to have their own slot in the inventory that you couldn't damage them, you couldn't break them, and maybe just make them weak then, where you only really use them for the one thing. Or if you want to use, like I started using the Master Sword all the time because it's like a cheap weapon, it'll last for a while and go away. Fine. Make it like that. It can't be something like, oh, there's boomerangs in this game. Yeah, I use them as melee weapons because using them as boomerangs never really was needed, and they broke right away, and there was plenty of things better than them. So, okay. And we'll get into new abilities and new items a little bit later because it takes another spot on the list. But number 2 is kind of quality of life improvements. I think fewer equipment types would go a long way. And what I mean by that is, by the end of this game, you have your winter gear, you have your it's really hot gear, you have your climbing gear, you have all this different gear, right? And it's just kind of a mess. And not only that, MMOs and a lot of games have had this forever, where you can pick the appearance of the item, but its abilities are of another item. And I think we can kind of circumvent that entire thing by doing a Dark Souls-ish style thing of you just have 2 ring slots that you can equip different abilities to. It's like, okay, I want to equip the resist heat ring, so I'm equipping that. And then I want to equip the one that makes me climb quickly. And you pause the game, you set that up, and then you back out. You don't have to put on new pants and a new shirt and all this garbage. It's kind of unnecessary. And then you can just have what you think looks cool as your armor, instead of having to be like, I guess I gotta wear this because I'm in the snow. I don't like that at all. I think upgrades need to be streamlined. It needs to, after you go see a fairy to upgrade something, it needs to kind of tell you on it, this is what you need to upgrade it. That just make things a little easier to do. It doesn't mean fewer items to upgrade it or anything like that. It just means, hey, put some stuff here so I don't have to remember everything or write it down or Google it. That's oh, you can Google it is not a good excuse, in my opinion. Other things, it needs to be able to remember and auto remake meals that you've made before. Why isn't that a thing? There's also other stuff here. You should be able to craft arrows. You should be able to craft fire arrows. You should be able to craft lightning arrows. Whatever. All of this stuff you should be able to craft. You can also see in the corner my 70k rupees in this. I think that's a big improvement to me, and mainly with the equipment too. It's kind of a mess. And 3, my top 5, more dungeons. I kind of talked about this in my last section here. The shrines are great and all, but they're so fragmented. Some of them are so short, they're just done and completely forgettable. Some of them are just straight up mini bosses. Some of them are long, meaty 20, 30 minute experiences that are great. Maybe not 20, 30 minutes, but you get what I'm saying. They're much better than the shorter ones. And if we just reduced the number of shrines here and made them into thoughtful, huge, like dungeons, if you played the game and you had 15 shrines in a row where you're solving these puzzles and there's keys to unlock things and you're getting maybe a new item or a new something that's fun, that is what I want to see. That is exactly what I want to see. They have all the components here because the shrines, by and large, are great. But they're so scattered all over, and it's just, I want the dungeon experience. And I never really got it because even the divine beasts are very lackluster. They're not great. I mean, I guess that's the only way I could describe it. I don't think the divine beasts are great. I wouldn't describe any of them as great. There were some great moments in them, but overall, forgettable. The bosses kind of forgettable. Forgettable is what I'd say about a lot of shrines too, because they're so short. Because there weren't, like, there's certain puzzles in these shrines where I'm like, I don't know what to do. But if I could leave and do other shrine puzzles and maybe come back and have a map that's not shitty garbage, I'd maybe remember it differently. I'd remember it better. I remember it more fondly. Instead of it being like, I don't know what this is. I guess I gotta brute force this thing. I don't know. I think that think about the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time. And what it has with the pose and how the world traverses and the hallway snapping around. Like, there's nothing even close to a moment like that. And that game's 20 years old. There's nothing even close to that in this game. There's nothing even close to the moment of in Wind Waker when you go back to Hyrule and it's in black and white and then all the color comes back and you have to fight everything. There's nothing even close to those moments. So while I also say more dungeons, let's include more story, amazing parts that you're a part of. Instead of seeing these flashbacks that are cool, but I'm so disconnected from them. They don't have any influence upon how I play the game or an action set piece moment. They're just and gone. And 4 on my list, make exploration thoughtful again with smart upgrades. And so the world's huge, right? And with this larger world, it doesn't make a lot of sense to lock away a bomb bag upgrade or a quiver upgrade, just as examples, in the far left corner of the map. It's so large, it could take you 50 hours to get over there. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that, to have them in specific locations. But instead, these shrines, or whatever, just places on the map, would unlock things in a specified pattern, regardless of where they are or which order you did them in. So, for example, you did your first shrine, it gave you a piece of heart. You did your next shrine, it gave you another piece of heart. You did this next one, and it gave you a stamina upgrade. Okay. And then you did another one, and it gave you a quiver upgrade, as an example. That, I think, is much more meaningful than the system they have here. And that order I gave would be the same regardless of what shrines you did and in whatever order. And going back to more impactful, how many times in this game did I go to someone and say, or go to the statue and be like, okay, give me a heart, give me another heart container, give me 3 heart containers and 1 stamina upgrade. It must have happened 3-4 times that I did that because I kept hoarding them. It never just gave me the ability. It never gave me the fun of like, you have a new heart now. Isn't that awesome? It was like, here's a token that you can go to the prize counter and get a prize at. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll get a prize at one day. And then you start collecting them so much. I'm like, I have 5. Well, I'll wait till I have 8 because there's a shrine over here. Then I'll have 6 and I just need to get 2 more, right? And then there's things like this that was just on screen, this quest. The quests don't mean anything because there's no tangible rewards for them. I just did that quest. I got some money. Money's useless. There's way too much money in this game, and there's nothing to even buy with it anyway. So I would like the return of things like bottles or better upgrades, better equipment through thoughtful side quests. There's not a ton of side quests in this game. There's like 75 or something, it said, not including shrine quests or main quest, but make them more thoughtful. Make this very clear, like this is the quest you want to do to get the upgrade to your armor to do XYZ, to get you a new ring that does a certain thing. You'll want to do this side quest, right? There's also the issue of the giant skulls on the map that I don't think are super interesting or have a lot going on in them. And you really could, and I did, for the last 70 hours I played the game, skip them entirely. Just straight up ran past all of them. There's no reason to. There's no piece of heart there. There's no Korok seeds there. There's maybe money, maybe an item I already have, maybe a gemstone that I don't need. So there's no reason to do it. But if I ran into an encampment of bokoblins and I knew that defeating this encampment would get me that much closer to a 5% damage boost to bokoblins, or a 5% less likely to see me boost to bokoblins, like something tangible from it. I'm not asking for, oh, I leveled up to level 5, let me fight more things. Oh, I'm level 6 now. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for these little stat increases along the way that by the end of the game, you can just wreck shop with all these things, not because you got a better sword necessarily, or you're better at the game necessarily. You would be, so you would be able to fight better, but because you put in the effort to take out all these encampments, the game's just rewarding you. Like, oh, your weapons don't degrade as much when you fight bokoblins because you fought so many before. Stuff like that. That's a tangible reward that I think makes the combat more fun and encourages it, especially if you start putting things in those chests that are relevant and not garbage, because they're garbage. You could even make some of those bonuses things like increased damage versus with arrows. Like, oh, well, now I do double damage with arrows if I get a headshot on bokoblins. So I'm going to fight them all like this. And it makes like a fun little challenge to do it with. And the final thing, the final on the top 5, is more traversal abilities, which I sectioned off from items. And these are just a couple ideas I put here. There's a ton of trees in the game, right? Look at all these trees. What if you could tie a sling around 2 trees, pull yourself back, and launch yourself into the air? So you now have a flying launch, like a catapult. Just an idea. And that'd be an item like a whip that you could still use as a weapon, and maybe use to like latch onto things and pull things towards you. There have been whips in the game before, in Zelda. I think that's a neat idea. You tie it to both sides of the trees, you launch yourself, boom, new item. Traversal is fun there again. And we can also have things like the hook shot, which I think could totally work in a game like this. You can just hook it to anything. Worked for me. I don't see why it wouldn't. There's no real difference. If you can make a stamina potion that you can make you climb anything, there's no reason why you wouldn't. A hook shot isn't necessary. Especially if you could be gliding in the air and use it. Like it slows down time and you shoot it against the wall over there to do, like, they could make interesting kind of platforming moments that I like to see, that aren't just climbing upward, as much as I enjoyed climbing upward in this game. There's also something, there's just spitballing, like a stasis glove where you could stick to things. So now you're climbing upside down on metal or whatever. Just an idea. Let's expand these ideas, because I feel like they get there and then they don't do anything with it. Like they have a paraglider, but what if I could rise and fall with the paraglider instead of just falling? Instead, you can, Ben, you can fly. Oh yes, I gotta shoot the floor with a fire arrow, use the weird magical updraft, and then fly again. Like, no, I want an actual mid-air hop with the paraglider where I'm like, whoop. Just interesting things like that. Expand upon it. Give horse abilities. Give you a flying creature. All these other creatures that you can land and mount in this game. Give me something more with it. Give me the return, while we're here, of Deku shrubs. The show Scrubs ruined things for me. Mainly pronunciation. I'll whack my head on this. So those are the, I guess, the top 5 things. They're just 5 things, really. I don't know. Top 5? Who cares? Of what I want to see in Breath of the Wild 2. No? All right. Because I think there are many ways to improve it. And I think looking at something like this and saying, wow, it does so many things so well. It does. It really does. But that doesn't mean there aren't ways to make it better. And that doesn't mean I'm just shitting on it and I don't like it, because it's great. But as a longtime Zelda fan, I think there are ways to make it better that would make an even more amazing full game. And I think that's a win-win for all of us. And that's the show. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday. Every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/TheGameFanatics. I stream my own channel, twitch.tv/BenReacts, as I mumble through it all. I stream Mario Maker on Saturday and Monday, and Wednesday I stream whatever I want. Which is usually, well, it was Zelda. So I'll have to find something else. Because I'm done. After 110 hours, I'm done. I'm done. I also like and kind of forgot that this game is the tits is just in the corner the entire time. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. It is the tits. Alright. Did I say Merry Christmas? I think I already did. Well, Merry Christmas again.